this whole item job and put it under item C, and then with the ask request, we want to get that.
Well, again, I guess I'm just going to talk about extending funds that we have remaining. We approved certain expenditures that were critical at our last meeting. Now we've got more on here. In particular, I guess, I'm a supporter of spending money on technology, but I think a discussion, that's actually a good area to discuss because they're asking to improve the HVAC system and do some remodeling for, in essence, what is a server room, as I understand it. I'm not sure it makes sense for us to even have servers. With the type of technology and the change in technology and the type of department that we have, it may make more sense to outsource our servers and to store at a data bank off campus. And the one critical thing that we talked about tonight is space availability. So we're having the room taken up and expending funds in that room for a specific purpose, which may or may not make sense, but until we have the type of discussion related to this, we don't know. So that's my input. I still think that we need to get together and talk about priorities by looking at a list of requests or a list of needs that we have, which we haven't done at this point.
And this list of needs that you're suggesting, should this be a compilation of what's been proposed to us in the past, including this evening, or is this something that you think we all need to have input on so we can maybe even add more to those?
Well, the majority of the input is from the staff because they know better, but there are areas where the board may have input in trying to provide direction to the staff. And technology is an example. They're just doing what they think the direction of the board is, which may or may not be the direction we want to have.
Would you like to have a separate workshop to do this?
I think it's worthwhile, but that's just me.
I think it'd be great to do it. I would hope that we would accomplish some of determining what our needs are as a result of the engagement that we're doing with the community as well. That's part of what I hope to get out of the engagement was some thought from the community as to what it is that we might need to do. So again, in what sequence do we want to do things? I guess is the critical question.
Mike, how much do we spend in just repair? Like you mentioned that the air conditioning units in Quail Ridge are way past their useful life. What do we spend in repairs per year, per month?
Well, I know we've invested probably within the last year. I know we've spent thousands of dollars on those units trying to keep them up and running.
5 to 20, something like that.
I'm not 20. I mean, maybe closer to 5.
10,000.
But the real issue with those is they're past their useful life, but they're very large units that even if we decide to replace them now, it'll be months before they get replaced because these units will have to be built because they don't, it's not something you buy off the shelf. And if they would decide to fail completely, then it would be months, before we could get them, up and operating. So it's really something that we would like to get taken care of, get them replaced before they die.
Similar with the Harris building, you're spending thousands of dollars in years of repair.
Yeah, those are smaller units, and so we're not necessarily spending, as much money on those. The real issue with the Harris building is the roof. It's constantly being patched, and then a few months later starts leaking again. So that's where we're really spending the money. And the HVAC units have to be removed in order to replace the roof. So it doesn't make much sense to remove a unit that's past its useful life and then put it right back on again. So the idea was if we're going to do the roof, we might as well do the HVAC at the same time. And that's the issue with that one. The Harris building has a lot more people in it now. They could use additional restrooms, which is really that other item. But now we have 2 items that would need to get added to this list if we want to go with a bond issue in April, is to start the design work on Summers Road Elementary School, which was $278,000. And to do the design work for the Timberland addition is $200,000. want the building open in August of 2009. It has to be, the buildings have to be designed, because we really need to start construction shortly after the bond vote in April. We want to have all the documents in place, the permits in place, so that they can start construction shortly after the voters approve shortly after the voters will hopefully approve that bond issue.
In your mind, is this the highest priority thing? This is $900,000 worth of bond money right now between this and the design.
Right, when we add these other two items, you're right, we have a little under 900,000, so we would have about $400,000 left.
Until what time?
If we did these items.
Through the end of the school year?
Well, there's 400,000 of bond money left that can be used for, some other purposes.
Right.
Whether that be, and that would depend if we wanted to do if it was decided to put a second elementary on the April ballot, then, a couple $100,000 of that would be used towards designing that elementary as well. So I would suggest not necessarily, not figuring out how to spend that money too soon, because we need to decide, especially with doing it in April, we need to decide what's going to be on that bond issue before we look at how to spend the remainder of this money.
Mike, I know I've asked you this almost every year for the past 8 years, so I'm just going to ask you because I haven't asked you this. What I've always wanted, and I'm thinking maybe it's possible now with the new SIS accounting system that you have, that you can keep track of the major expenses by building. And by major expenses, I'm talking about the mechanical equipment, number one. And that we, its own separate account. And then maybe other, the roofing or something, which is the next probably greatest expense, number two. So that you go over and push a button on any one of these schools or all of these schools. As we go forward with the strategic plan process and we start entertaining these same kind of decisions every single year practically, or every time we're going to go out for a bond issue, it would be really helpful to me and probably everybody else here if we could look to see how much we're spending on repairs and maintenance, so we have that to weigh against the decision on whether to replace this year or not, that kind of thing. And that's what I hear Joe McDonald asking, and this is something that I've always wanted. I thought maybe about 4 years ago when they were implementing the SB that we would have it then, but we still don't. So, maybe we could have that conversation and you can tell me if that would be possible to do with what we have installed now.
Bruce, is there anything else on the list that needs to be done if we're going to at least do an elementary school, and that would be on Summers, and doing the addition to Timberland? Is there anything else that would expedite that project that might need to be part of anything that we're talking about now?
Not that I can think of it.
The design work will get us where we have a chance to get it done in the time.
Mr. Schaefer's comment, I need to go back and do a little bit of homework because my memory tells me that besides the initial layout, for example, on the Mexico Road site, I'm not sure I would answer this question properly or if I understood it correctly. But we've done the basic layout for the prototype elementary school at both the Mexico Road site, which I think is what you're asking, and whether or not we've gone beyond that. Well, we know how the building is going to be laid, and I believe we know what phase 1 or phase 1 and 2 would be on that building. In that particular case, as an example, that one was modified a little bit differently than the other prototypes because of the size of the site. I know that we've done basic schematic design layout for the Summers Road site, because if you will recall, at one point in time, that project was going to be on a bond issue, and it got pulled, and Piney Ridge happened instead. I'm not exactly sure where we were on that one when we pulled, because it's a couple of years old. I really need to go back probably and do a little bit of homework. I know we have a conceptual site layout. I believe the survey work is done, and my memory tells me the geotechnical work is done. So, to my knowledge, I don't think there's any other critical design services that are required for either Timberland or Summers Road that I haven't thought about. I'm not exactly sure where we were, though, when we pulled off. Does that make sense?